right, family. Welcome to the show live on Facebook. Of course, this is going to run back on radio on three stations. Big Rob, special guest today, brother.
Yes, sir.
Let me take my sunglasses off, man.
Yeah,
I ain't
you
gonna
need
lie.
to take them off, man.
Yeah,
Sure.
that I'm still tired from the Heart and Soul Festival in Orlando that we did over the weekend, packed house. But we got someone coming up on the show. The first black lieutenant governor for the state of Michigan, and when he won, all of us were celebrating because he showed us the possibility. And Rob, and he's not even 40, bro. He's still young. You know, he's like a young Barack Obama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we want to welcome to the show. He got time for us, Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist. How you doing today, LG?
I'm great. It's really great to be here with y'all. Thank you for having me. You putting a lot on me with the Barack Obama stuff, man. You gotta be careful.
And you got it though. You got it. So you've been in this seat now, what, a couple years now, man. How does it feel? Do you feel like you made some progress?
It's a tremendous privilege to serve alongside Gretchen Whitmer. The people of the state of Michigan put a lot of confidence in her and I. And, you know, part of how we got into office was because Black people showed up and voted in record numbers in 2018. And you know, when we vote, we win. That's the beautiful thing about the Black vote. And so I'm proud, and I'm proud of that. And our community continuing to show up like we always do. Especially for Black male voters, you know, the second most reliable. We talk about Black women voters being the number one performing voters in the Democratic coalition. We are number two. And so, you know, I'm happy to stand by and stand tall for our people. And, you know, over these last few years, we have been able to make some important progress, I think, for our communities and for the state as a whole. You know, when it comes to creating, I'm about creating access to opportunity, economic opportunity, educational opportunity, entrepreneurial opportunity as a recovering entrepreneur myself. And so we've been able to make sure that we can make some investments in communities. We also did things during the pandemic to flatten racial disparities when we had this virus that was killing Black folks at a rate of 5 times higher than it was killing white people. You know, we created the Michigan Coronavirus Task Force on Racial Disparities that I chaired. And we showed the nation that it was possible to flatten those disparities, to give people access to doctors and health insurance, and make community partnerships pave the way for people to be able to get information about health, to encourage Black folks to get vaccinated and to wear masks and stuff like that. And so that has shown the way for how we can make progress on disparities in a lot of areas. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited for us to continue to be engaged in conversation with the community, continue to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our people, and continuing to improve quality of life. That's what I'm all about. I'm an engineer. I'm a problem solver. And so I'm happy to dive into that every single day.
Wow, I didn't know that you're an engineer.
Yeah. I was a double engineering major at Michigan.
Ooh, wow. You gave up. You took a pay cut, man, to be lieutenant governor.
I did.
my brother's an engineer from Michigan, so I know. He works for GM.
No, I didn't actually. So look, when I was in college, I did intern at GM, but I'm a software developer. I want to be a software developer. So actually, wow. I left the state. After I graduated, I went to be a software developer at Microsoft for 4 years. So I was living out in Seattle,
wow,
on the West Coast. And then I took a 5-year detour to DC to do political advocacy work before I came home to Detroit, where I'm from, and worked in municipal government, not in politics, and was ultimately pulled into this a few years after I got home. But it wasn't my intention.
So you graduated from Michigan, correct?
Yeah, class of 05.
You got my vote.
Yeah,
there we go. Look, Look, and I don't know. I don't apologize for it. The governor went to state, and right. that's a problem between us. But,
right.
But you know, I represent Maize and Blue all day, every day.
Right.
No apologies.
And I know when you guys started, you had a certain agenda, and I know this COVID thing probably kind of got it off track. Do you feel like you have accomplished some things that you set out to do?
Absolutely. And, you know, I think that certainly we didn't see the COVID-19 pandemic coming in this way or to this degree, but we've been able to make progress on many issues in the face of and in the midst of this pandemic. I'll give you 2 examples. You know, I did a tour in 2019 called Thriving Cities, which was all about improving the quality of life for people who live in cities, and recognize that most people of color, most Black folks who live in Michigan live in a city. Mm-hmm. And so we went to 19 cities across the state, including a meeting in Muskegon over at Lake Michigan College. And when we were there, We talked about a number of issues in these really key areas: affordable housing, quality of life for kids in cities, environmental justice, transportation and mobility services, and creating generational economic opportunity. And one of the ideas that came from that Muskegon meeting was the fact that Black folks are the largest racial minority in Michigan. And our state government has a structure to have racial and ethnic commissions to advise state government on policy and on programs. But there wasn't one that existed for Black folks. And so in the Muskegon meeting, people said to me, why don't we have a commission for Black people? We're the largest minority. We should have some representation at that level of government. We appreciate you being in your position. We need that more representation. And so I took that to heart. And last year we established the Black Leadership Advisory Council in direct response to what came up in that meeting. So that's one example. The second is I've been leading our administration's efforts when it's come to reforming our criminal justice system that has been historically and presently discriminatory towards people of color, and particularly the Black community. And in those Thriving Cities meetings, I heard at every single one of them, all 19, about the need for us to reform our system for criminal record expungement, because those people having criminal records is keeping them out of full civic and economic life. And so we worked on that. And last October, we signed the most progressive, expansive, and inclusive automatic criminal record expungement program in the country, a policy I worked on personally. So we've been able to do things in the midst of all the pandemic stuff and the public health things that are still so important and so urgent. We need people to get vaccinated. Look, I got vaccinated. I got my 2 doses, one in Detroit, one in Flint, in the heart of 2 Black communities, to show why it was important for me as a young, relatively healthy Black man, that I made that choice to get vaccinated for my community, for my family, for my babies. I got 3 kids, and that was the most important thing that I could do. And that's still true for our community today.
Well, a question from Jay Kilgore from Black Lives Matter Muskegon is, how does one become part of this Black Leadership Advisory Committee?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we established it, and the initial members of the Black Leadership Advisory Committee have been named, and the committee has been meeting for about a year now, because it was formed in summer of 2020. We can make sure that we get y'all directed to the website so you can see the agendas, the members of the council, the agendas for the meetings when they happen. Then there's things that people can participate on as members of the public, and add comments and perspectives to those agenda items. And I welcome and encourage that.
Wow. Talk about auto insurance. Some of the issues that affecting Blacks here in Muskegon is the high cost of auto insurance. Are we making progress on lowering the costs?
Yes, and I can speak to this personally. I lived in Washington, D.C. for 5 years before I came home to Detroit, and my car insurance quadrupled when I got home. And I moved home and had a garage. It wasn't parking on the street. My car got broken into in Washington, D.C. But when I came home to Michigan is when insurance rates quadrupled for me. And so we set as a priority that we wanted to reform that system to make it more affordable. Our reform went into effect in April of last year and has made a big difference for a lot of people's pockets. There's still work to be done to improve that legislation. It wasn't perfect when we signed it. We still have work to do to make sure we can protect people who are catastrophically injured in accidents, to make sure they can have the care they need. And, knowing people personally and having talked to advocates on this issue, that's work the legislature still needs to fix. And the Republicans in the legislature need to step up, and they haven't done that. And it's leaving a lot of people hanging in a way that's very dangerous, and I think a broken promise to them.
So are we at the mercy of the Republican Party on fixing that component?
Until we elect more Democrats than Republicans in the state legislature, that's a dynamic that we have to deal with. We've put forward a proposal to fix this issue in our no-fault law, and the Republicans, though, they're the ones. They need to step up to the plate. Advocates have done their job, and so now we need to do. They need to do theirs now, and make that legislation real.
Wow. We're live with Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist. A couple more questions relevant to Muskegon. Is Muskegon Heights Public Schools, recently the governor signed off on the oversight committee, and this poor community, the stats of Muskegon Heights, one of the poorest communities in the state, still footing the debt of this school district caused by retirement and all that. How does the governor feel? I mean, what's in the plans to help relieve that debt the Muskegon Heights Public Schools has, because that's been passed on to the citizens?
Yeah. No, this is an important issue. So first of all, Muskegon High Schools coming out of that level of state oversight, I do think is an important milestone, because what that state oversight represents is diminished local control. In Michigan, we want people to have, the ability to determine how their schools are going to work locally. And our predecessors had a really aggressive approach to taking that away from communities, particularly Black communities and communities of color. And so for the district to be able to come out of that oversight, I think is an important step. But having said that, there is this historic debt that does need to be dealt with. And one of the ways that we are working to try to help this district and other districts across the state is through the historic investments that we're making in public education that are distributed equitably, not just equally. The K-12 education budget that we signed in June of this year is the largest investment in K-12 education in the history of the state of Michigan. It does so equitably. It actually brings, it reduces the disparity between wealthy districts and impoverished districts in a way that hasn't been true since Proposal A was passed in the mid-90s, and allows districts then to use those equitable resources in the way that they need to for their own business, whether you got to deal with debt service, transportation services, deeper investments in CTE, or in your students who have special and extraordinary needs. Like, it gives districts that flexibility because of that equity that we built in. So we think that this will help districts like Muskegon Heights. And I know that there still is more work to be done. And that's why even though we're not in the state oversight role that existed previously, we still remain in communication with them and our Treasury Department to make sure we can be good supporters to the families really of Muskegon Heights.
Do you think it would be enough to erase that debt over time?
We need to find a pathway for the debt to be served. And there are a lot of districts that are dealing with this. And so there are limitations to the state's ability to like straight up make these things go away, like forgive it. But we believe, though, that by these kind of investments we're making in K-12 education will lead to really strong offerings from school districts that will compel parents to put their kids in public schools again. One of the reasons why so many districts have struggled with this kind of structural debt is because of declining enrollment. And so one of the things that the district has shown to come out of that state oversight is getting on a different path and trajectory when it comes to enrollment, which means making a case to families that they need to be participants in the public school district here. And so I think we want to continue to invest in things that make that work so families can continue to make that choice.
Online comment, Lieutenant Governor. This is from a business owner, Big Rich Thrower. Good afternoon, sir. Be on the lookout for a recent housing development in the next 12 months. Will we cut the ribbon? Will you be there? It's set to be one of the largest Black-owned housing developments on the west side of the state. This will help create beautiful, affordable housing. And I guess you have to get in contact with your media relationship. Affordable housing, that is a priority of this administration, right?
Absolutely. So the Thriving Cities Tour, one of our pillars is access to affordable and available housing. We just proposed about a month ago a $100 million investment in our state's community development fund, which is our housing trust fund that exists to invest in affordable housing in communities like Muskegon and Muskegon Heights. We're using federal COVID relief dollars to jumpstart that. It'll leverage about $380 million in additional private investment to jumpstart the development of affordable housing for at least 6,000 families in the state of Michigan. So definitely, Big Rich and others, if you want to get in contact with me in my office, you can go to michigan.gov/Gilchrist, GILCHRIST. And there's a way to click on to invite me to an event. And if my schedule permits, I do my best to make it work. But I certainly want to be supportive of anyone who's making housing more affordable in communities across Michigan, because that is the bedrock of any anti-poverty program. We need to have that kind of stability in our communities so that people can really establish roots. People can feel their identity. Having a place to live is part of your identity. And being able to afford that and have that be stable and consistent is so important for our families. And so we want to make that a reality for everyone in Michigan.
Well, Lieutenant Governor, a couple more questions. And thank you for being on StreamYard. I understand this might be your first time on StreamYard.
No, I've been on StreamYard. Come on, now. We've been in the pandemic for like a year and a half, man.
Okay, good. All right. Well, that's why I was. All right, good. I got to talk to Sam on that one then. About that one. And look, another thing that's pressing the Black community here is the idea of this casino coming to Muskegon. Mm-hmm. This is so real to people in the community, and we know that the Indians, Native Americans, are waiting for the governor to sign off on this. It has went through every other checkpoint, checked every box except the last one. And I understand there's a lot of pressure coming from the east side of the state, from Detroit, on not wanting to see this happen. But what do you think is going to happen next? What's the probability of this happening? Because this would be a game changer. 1,200 jobs in Muskegon, good paying jobs, and a lot of black folks are going to benefit.
Yeah, I'm familiar with what's happening with the casino, and it's something that we looking at. This, you talked about going through all these processes, and we making sure that all those boxes are indeed checked, and it's in the final stages of it right now. So I'm not going to break any news to you today,
Right.
but what I will tell you is that this is something that is a priority for us to make sure that we're reviewing properly, and job creation continues to be a priority for this administration, and we want to see that happen in the most sustainable way possible. And this could be a pathway toward that.
Let's don't forget about us over here. I know we small, man. I know we a small community, man.
I'm not gonna forget about nobody in Michigan. Okay, like it's too important. Every community matters here, and that's why Muskegon is part of my Thriving Cities tour to go to 24 cities this year. We just wrapped up our first 3 meetings. I had a meeting in Saginaw earlier today. We've been to Flint, we've been to Detroit thus far. We're going to go to 24 cities total. We're coming to Muskegon. We're going as far southwest as Benton Harbor, going to Port Huron, going to Marquette, going to Houghton, going everywhere to have this conversation with people who live in cities all across Michigan. Big
Rob, go ahead. Detroit. He's a Detroit Henry Ford graduate, man.
Okay.
Go ahead, Big Rob.
That's as far as I went, Henry Ford. But you look like a Cass Tech man. Did you go to Cass Tech or Renaissance?
No. My mama went to Cass Tech. My dad went to McKenzie, but I went to high school in Farmington. So we moved out of the city when I was in elementary school.
Oh, okay.
So I live and my kids are in elementary school in the city now. However,
that's good.
Oh, okay. Well, my question is, how are we coming along in Flint? I mean, you brought up visiting Flint.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends and relatives that still live in Flint, and they're still dealing with some issues. How are we doing on the government level?
Yeah. So this has been one of the biggest priorities for me and for our administration. I spend more time in Flint than, frankly, I spend almost anywhere else. And the reason for that is because we got so much trust that needs to be rebuilt because, our predecessors broke it. They broke the trust, and people were put in a position of no fault of their own to have their health and the health of future generations of people in Flint and children be hurt. And so we're continuing to support the city with the service line replacement, the filters, water is still being made available. But we also have in our budget put forward these dollars to finish this infrastructure investment when it comes to the service line replacement. We also worked to get the best settlement we could in the Flint lawsuit. Again, settling somebody else's lawsuit is never something that you want to do, but nevertheless, that position that we needed to be in. And while there is no dollar amount that can make any person in Flint whole, let me be very clear about that. There is no dollar amount that can make any person whole. But we believe that was important to close that chapter so we can move on with the additional ways we're going to support. We believe the education dollars that we're putting into our state budget are going to be crucial, and the equity that we put into the formula will benefit the city of Flint or Flint Community Schools, disproportionately in a positive way. We believe the infrastructure dollars are gonna go a long way there, and we're also working toward job creation. I did a small business summit in Flint last week downtown at the 100K Ideas, and this is really about how we can encourage more people to see themselves as entrepreneurs and people with ideas that are worth investing in, and changing the access to capital in different markets so that we can continue to just build out an economic opportunity in the city of Flint.
Well, do you know when you're coming to Muskegon? It's an online question.
So I don't have the date yet. I don't have the date yet about when the Muskegon meeting is going to be, but there will be a Thriving Cities meeting in Muskegon that I will be there to facilitate personally, and it should be pretty soon. We're trying to wrap these up this fall. We would love to broadcast it live on radio if that's possible. That would be fantastic. That'd be fantastic. I'd love that too.
Anything else you want to share? I know you got a busy schedule. Anything you want to get out to the community?
Well, I want to thank y'all for being you. I'm glad that we can make this work and to be able to connect with you. I don't want this to be the last time that I'm able to come here with you on air and to answer questions from your listeners and viewers. I appreciate that opportunity for you lending your platform in that way. I just really want folks, as we come into the fall, as children are returning to in-person learning, because look, I got twin third graders. I saw how uneven the online learning experience was between the difference of my son and my daughter, my twins. And so we have to do everything we can to keep our children safe. And the best way to keep a kid safe from getting COVID-19 is for the adults around them to get vaccinated. And so we need people to make that choice, get your questions answered. They have answers, but now it's time to take action. And that's what we do. And that's what we need. So everyone, please make that choice.
All right. Stay safe, man. I know it's a lot of pressure out there. I've seen this foolishness going on with the governor, with all these crazy people. I can imagine what it is for the first black lieutenant governor. And I can know how to emails and phone calls. Yeah, I know.
but see, Paul, the difference is he from Detroit. He used to that.
He ready for it.
Look,
He ready.
we here, okay?
Right. Thank you, LG. We appreciate you, man.
No doubt. Y'all take care. Be safe.
Take care.